Oh shit! Welcome to the mayhem, welcome to the heat, where the food's fucking fire and the talk's elite. No filters, no fakes, just flames and control. If you can't take the burn, better fucking roll. No rules, no mercy, no fucking filters. This is Strobe Board. Let's fucking go!
Counts down and then it gets excited. And so now we're live, or recording, not live, but yeah. So we've talked about it before. This is like my little studio. I kind of do like a cooking podcast, and I like to talk shit about the government and like what they put in our food, or like to tell us that's in our food or not in our food. And I mean, we have some better regulations than other countries, but I just feel like we could do a lot better. And just that's kind of what I'm about. Just I don't know. It's a bit about me. I mean, we've talked before, but for people listening, they don't know who we are. So, tell like I know a bit about you. I brought this. I figured this would be fun because I brought the boxes in here with me, so we could talk about those later. And I figured I would wait, like, because normally I have this at like noon. So this is my yellow pack. So nice. I figured I would just for fun, I would bring it in here and just kind of wait to start the second one of the day. But yeah, so a bit about me. I started, I've always loved food, right? So I've been cooking since I was like little. My mom is not that much into cooking. She does like a bit of cooking, like home style stuff, but nothing outside of the realm of a white household. So, salt and pepper, and that's about as far as that goes. So I tried baking one time and didn't even use butter. And I swore I followed a recipe, completely lied through my teeth. And it was just like this green brick of banana bread. Still laugh about it being a doorstop. But, so that was like when I was 5, and I started taking pictures of food like way before it was cool to put them on Instagram, like MSN Messenger days, right? So like that's kind of where the globs thing sort of started. So my last name is Glaw. And then if you remember, we used to like when you had a desktop, you'd have this like folder and you'd name your computer. So then it would open up and it would just be Glaw. And then I just had this folder on my desktop that would be BS, and I would just like throw everything in there. So then that just sort of spelled globs, and that became my username. And then I shared a recipe about I guess it was at the beginning of 2018. I shared a recipe about a turkey, and it was just in the recipe, it specifically said when you take the turkey out of the oven to let it rest, this is your cue to go put on pants, and your mother-in-law will be coming over shortly. So that kind of is what put me on the map on Instagram, was I guess just that sort of joke about the recipe. And then, since then I've been posting pictures of food and going live on Instagram and stuff like that. And then I just recently released my first of 5 cookbooks that's coming out right away. So that's exciting. And this podcast, you're episode number 4. So I haven't released any of them yet. And this is the first one I've done like this. We're on opposite sides of Canada. I'm like central Canada, but I work at Mountain Standard Time. So I think you're in Toronto if you're Eastern Standard Time. Okay, sounds good. All right, so that's a bit about me. Tell me about yourself. And I kind of know where you came from, but nobody else listening to this knows.
So my name is Dr Manu Gill. I usually just go by Manu. I'm a medical doctor in both Canada and USA, but I chose not to pursue residency and actually shifted away from medicine entirely back in mid of 2023. I started my own online health coaching business, and I market myself as a lifestyle health coach. And really my goal is to help parents over the age of 30 learn how they can lose weight, put it off without having to give up their favorite foods or relying on pharmaceutical medication to lose that weight. And I also educate them how, through the right lifestyle factors, they can actually prevent and reverse a lot of chronic disease, so they can put themselves in a position to get off pharmaceutical medication. Then again, if that's a goal of theirs, if it's not a goal of theirs, it's not going to happen. And also I partnered up with a supplement company back in mid of 2024 because their vision and goals are the same as mine. That company's name is Unicity, and you actually had two of those products before, the Feel Great system. Reason I partnered up with this supplement company is because their vision is the same as mine. They want to help people improve their metabolic health. I love the people involved in the business, and also it's another paycheck for me, which is awesome. We all need money to support ourselves, and me, it's the same thing. And outside of my health coaching business and working with Unicity, I actually am an instructor candidate in the Dale Carnegie Business Group. If people don't know what that is, that's a business group based off of the popular book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I actually am an instructor candidate within that organization to become a coach with them so I can start teaching and facilitating their main course and also some of the other courses they help with people through leadership. So that's a bit about me, what I do for professionally. And the reason I don't practice medicine, I know people will probably ask that or wonder that. It's because my goal within medicine was to do family medicine and then also specialize into a functional or integrative medicine fellowship. So essentially becoming a functional medicine doctor. And for those people who don't know what functional medicine is, it's pretty much a sect in medicine where those doctors are actually helping patients discover the root cause of what's making them sick and ultimately getting those patients off of medications. That's what those doctors do. And the reason I don't practice medicine is because a lot of people don't know this, but I'm just going to say this. In Canada and USA, you can do everything required of you to become a medical doctor and yet still not end up with the job and earn a living. And that's after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, going into debt, becoming a medical student, going through the education, spending hours, years of your life, sacrificing so much to become a doctor, get the initials behind your name, you can still not end up with a job. It's similar to sports in the sense that there's a draft in NHL, NBA, NFL. Doctors also go through a draft once a year where if you don't get the job, you're essentially sitting in limbo for a whole year doing God knows what, waiting until you beg enough to get a job. And for me, that's not the realm of life I like living in. I like controlling my own destiny, or at least having control in it, or knowing that I can do what I need to do to actually propel my life to a different trajectory. And in medicine, I always felt like someone else is controlling my livelihood. Someone else is dictating if I'm going to get a job or not, which never sat well with me. And for me, I got sick and tired of applying to that match cycle. From not matching, I just realized there's no point in me begging for a job when I can just go ahead and make my own and start my own business and start working and actually helping my clients get the health results they're deserving of. So that led me to leave medicine entirely. And I also felt like there was never proper leadership within medicine. A lot of the people that work as healthcare practitioners, whether they be doctors, nurses, or other healthcare personnel, I just felt as though they weren't compassionate, empathetic, or very integrity-rich individuals who I didn't want to be around. You are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. The way those people operated mentally and emotionally, I just felt like they would really drag me down with them. And it was better to leave that system entirely, find a tribe of individuals who I jive with and resonate the morals and integrity I share. And that way I can actually build something great in this world. So that's a bit about me, why I left medicine. I can definitely go so much more into that.
Well, I think it's a good thing to talk about, because I guarantee you, like for me, I've been researching, medicine just because of like my health journey that you and I briefly talked about, right? And I was just given these just random different things to try all of the time. Never once was I told to like pay attention to my diet or, hey, quit drinking so much. Like I grew up working in construction. So, swearing and drinking is just kind of comes with the job. So that's just sort of like, nobody ever once said like, hey, I found out that in my medical records, when I finally got a hold of them, because in Canada, they don't give them to you. And it was actually really difficult for me to get them. I had a CT back in 2005 that showed I had a fatty liver at that time. Mm-hmm. So I found out in 2010 that I had like a cirrhosis and fatty liver at that time. right? So it was just like, basically they took a piece of my liver out, helped it regenerate, and put it back in. So it was a pretty scary time. And then after that, I was just like, okay, you're good. You know, you're not jaundiced anymore. You're fine. So I just went about my life for like a while, had a whole nother kid. So I got 3 kids. And then nobody ever said, well, you still have a fatty liver. Like, yeah, you don't have the cirrhosis piece anymore. You're not leaking bile into your bloodstream. Good for you. Mm-hmm. But guess what? You still have a fatty liver. You should probably like, tone your lifestyle down or change some choices or whatever, that kind of stuff. Nobody ever said that to me, but it was like, so a year and a bit ago, I had a really close friend of mine die very suddenly in Peru. And she was right before she left, she was like having a lot of like anxiety and some like random feelings and like uncomfortableness. And like my dad has congestive heart failure. So I was like, you should go to the doctor. Like it might not just be anxiety. Like you should go see the doctor. Like the way you're describing this tightness, like across your chest, like you're a woman, it's like hard to tell if you're having a heart attack. We legit had this conversation. She went to the doctor. The doctor prescribed her with ADHD medication. And she went to Peru and she died of a heart attack in Peru. Like, oh my God. Two months later. So yay for ADHD medication. That's a whole nother story. But like for me, that was like a changing point in my like lifestyle care of myself. So I was 287 pounds a year and a bit ago. So December 7th was like a month after she died. I'm like, I really need to pay attention to what the fuck I'm doing with my life. So I weighed myself that day, took some before pictures that day. I've lost like just over, like, I mean, you can look at it 2 ways because this recent injury, I've gained back like 8 pounds, but I've lost about 85 pounds. So in just about a year. So it's like, okay, nobody ever told me that I could like fix my fatty liver by losing weight. Like I figured that out through like my own research online. And then I was just scrolling TikTok and the lovely algorithm that it is, you showed up and you're like, I don't know what, like, I was just like scrolling and it was like, all I heard you say is like fatty liver. And then I scrolled back and it was gone. I was like, no, it was just there. I found it. I seen it. So I like searched fatty liver and I was like looking for your face because I have a photographic memory. So I was like scrolling and I'm like, no, this is the guy. And then so I followed you and then you were live again the next day and I was like, okay. And then I listened to you and I'm like, hey, you were just holding up like these 3 things. Tell me what those things were. I don't know. And then you're like, yeah, that's what this is. So that's kind of like, I guess a bit why I invited you on the podcast. I just decided to start doing the podcast because I like to talk shit about stuff and learn more about things. And I don't know anything. I'm a dumb contractor. Like I just work in construction. So like, I don't really have a background in any kind of medicine. Obviously just started paying attention to my health. I got 3 kids, 19, almost 16 and almost 10. So like I spaced them out a bit, but yeah, so that's, I guess, I mean, that part's important. I think you should talk about the fact that when you go into medicine, it's not just like you just don't become a doctor. You have to get a residency and do all of those types of things first. Because like, I mean, if you're not able to help somebody, and I kind of deep dived and listened to some of the other stuff you're talking about. Like you were saying, like from a kid, you've always wanted to help people. So it's like, how do I get to that point? And especially if you have to go, like, how would you know where you're going to live?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a great point. So like, for me, being South Asian, I'm Punjabi. So in the South Asian community, there's a stereotype that always goes around for every kid. Your parents either want you to be 3 things: a doctor, lawyer, engineer. And if you're neither of those things, you're a failure by default. So
I mean, my family's kind of the same way, except for it's like rig hand, construction, or medical. I mean, you could do those 3 things, so I don't know where I fall. I mean, I dedicated my books to my parents. They tried. I don't know. I choose my own life. I choose my own path on whatever that I feel like doing at the time. Yeah. Obviously, definitely. I just swear a lot. I don't do the live, laugh, love thing, obviously. So basically just be nice, be kind. That's what that actually means, is just be kind. Yeah. But
So like the traditional medical path for most people, whoever's listening to this, if they're interested in going to medicine, I'll always tell people, do what you feel is right for you. If people genuinely want to become doctors, I hope you achieve that thing. Like I'm that type of person. I want people to achieve their dreams, their goals, whatever it is they want. I realized for myself, yes, I wanted to be a doctor and practice in that system. I always wanted to do that from a young age. I envisioned myself wearing a white coat, stethoscope, being a doctor, helping people. And to me, helping people meant relieving their pain and suffering and also putting them in a position to get off medication, right? And I realized during my time in medical school, also in rotations. So I went to medical school. It was an American school based in the Caribbean. So I did 2 years living in Aruba. That was all my book work. That was year 1 and 2. Year 3 and 4, I lived in the US. I lived in Atlanta, Chicago, New York, different cities over a period of time. And I completed all my clinical clerkships there. So rotations in hospitals or medical clinics, did all of that. Saw patients, reported to my attendings, learned from patients, studied for my board exams. I did all of that. That took a total of 10 years starting medical school and then, starting pre-med, finishing pre-med, going into medical school, finishing my board exams, and then also my clerkship. That took 10 years of my life. And for me, I'm the first doctor in my family. And I will say this to anyone listening to this right now. If you do not have any doctors in your family and you are on track to becoming the first doctor in your family, it is exceptionally difficult. It is not easy. It is going to be the hardest thing you ever do because you don't have guidance. You don't have support. Neither did I. Okay, I had to figure out everything on my own. And another thing is a lot of people in your life, whether they be friends, family, they will never understand what it takes out of us to become doctors because it is not glamorous. It is not flashy. It is not fun. You are literally going to be sitting down at a table every day, putting your head down, reading books, doing questions, and learning and memorizing and understanding. Because whatever you guys learn, whatever you're going to be learning in medicine, it's not about you. It's about the person in front of you. And a lot of people don't realize that do medicine. And that's why I think there's a disconnect with the empathy and the compassion factor. There's a lot of competitiveness in the field of medicine, but it comes out of a place of scarcity and fear as opposed to joy and like bliss, which is something that just never sat right with me because I'm a type of person, I'm not religious by any means, but I'm very spiritual. I'm very focused on becoming the best version of myself because I know that's going to be great for me, obviously, but I also know it's going to be great for people around me. So they want to hang out with me and all these kind of things. So for me, when I realized, in medicine, when I was doing it, it's a lot of hard work. I'm on track to becoming the first doctor of my life. Exceptionally difficult. I don't have that guidance. I don't really have that moral support. I'm doing everything on my own. And I never got to share that with anyone in my life because a lot of times people really don't care about anyone else. They just care about themselves kind of thing. So it's like, what's the point of me even sharing what's going on in my life with people who won't care? And then the other thing, when I was in medicine and I saw my attending, so this is how it is. As a medical student, you will be in rotations, you will be in clinicals. However, you don't have direct care to the patient as you shouldn't because you're a student, right? If I was a patient, I would want the attending taking care of me, not a medical student, because I want to make sure they know what they're doing with their, you know what I'm saying? So that's why it's set up that way. So with my attendings, I would just see them dealing with certain cases that showed me the incapabilities of medicine. And I'll give an example of this. This was in Atlanta in 2017. This was one of my internal medicine rotations. I had a doctor, amazing dude, great guy. And he had a patient who was in a coma. And the only treatment for that patient, if this was a medical board exam, the answer would be give that patient hypertonic saline because their sodium just dropped drastically and they needed, volume contraction. They needed fluids and more sodium. But because in America, a lot of the healthcare provided is based on patients' insurance coverage, American healthcare is the best if you can afford it. That's the caveat, if you can afford it. If you cannot afford it, you're done. Right? You're done. So that patient needed that solution. They needed that hypertonic saline to essentially get them out of a coma and save their life. Because their insurance didn't cover it, my attending was looking at us medical students with like his face. I could just see it. He was so frustrated, so disappointed, so disheartened because he knew what he needed to do to save that patient, but he couldn't give that solution. He had to give normal saline instead, which isn't going to do much in that situation. And that just told me one thing really quick. That told me, even though I'm studying for all these answers to get them right on my exam, when the time comes, I may or may not even be able to pick this right answer to save someone's life in front of me. That was one limitation right there, right? The other limitation,
that's a little sketchy.
Yeah, it's insurance, right? So the other limitations I would see is that patients would be on so many medications, especially as they get older. They'd be on so many medications. Some of them would truly want to get off, but they're in such a position where you're done. There is nothing you can do at that point that's going to actually support you, because you're not going to be able to exercise. Like, you have arthritis of the knees, you're on all these medications, you're barely able to move, and you're going to deal with this sickness. Why is that? Because if this was years ago, you should have been at least given that advice and that accountability. Okay, let's focus on your diet, exercise, nutrition, and let's get you, practicing mindfulness to lower your stress. So that told me, if my goal is to actually help patients get off medications and help them actually fix their bodies and heal, which is possible, but if I were to say this to doctors, the word heal, they think I'm stupid, right? So like I said, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And for me, I truly, truly, truly could not stand being around other healthcare practitioners because of their very narrow scope of mindset. And my mindset's always expanding. I'm always trying to become the best version of myself. So I knew I wasn't around the right people. That was number one.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I realized, if I want to be able to help patients, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it in the system. And that was like a heartbreaking moment, because I spent my whole life, literally, I was one of those kids from childhood. Most kids don't know what they want to do. I'll be honest. Like, most kids, my friends,
I got 3 of them. Nobody knows what they want to do. None of them.
They never knew what they wanted to do. But I was one of those rare
I'm 40 years old. I don't know what I want to do.
I was one of those rare people. When I was a kid, I would tell all my friends, I'm going to be a doctor. And I was probably the only person from a young age who actually did the thing they said they were going to do when they were a kid. And then having to realize all this it was heartbreaking, because I spent my whole life dedicating it to that craft, realizing that this isn't the right solution for me to live a life that I know I'm deserving of, but also living a life where I know I can genuinely support people the way I want to support them. So after trying to apply for
I feel like that's pretty crazy. Like, just like to think that, looking at your dream, and really you're still living it. You're still helping people. It's just you're not doing it in like a traditional sense of like the way the government has decided that we should be doing it. I mean, like, to me, it's like you're still going out there, you're still helping people, and you're still giving out information. And I mean, I think we live in a world, like, it's nice that we could just have, like, we're not regulated by what we talk about here. We're just having an opinion, and we're going to talk shit about the industry and that kind of stuff. But it's like, if you want to actually genuinely help somebody, you can't. And for me, like, I recently just fractured my femur head and did an anterior dislocation of my hip, like 32 days ago. Excuse me. And I've broken a bone before. I had a compound fracture in my arm before. And it took almost 8 months for me to be able to move my hand again. And I had to have 2 surgeries on my hand again. Right now, coming out of this injury, I'm weight bearing. I'm walking. Stairs are not really the greatest, but like I'm improving my gait every day. So in 32 days with this doctor that was in the hospital, because the injury happened in Banff. He was a European doctor, and he only ever went to Banff just during the ski season. He's actually not from Canada. He was like a privately hired doctor that works in Banff. Doesn't even work in Canadian medicine. He gave me this chart, and he was like, if you keep your protein and your antioxidants and all these things up, like ridiculously high, and like work on range of motion and not doing all of these things, you'll be healing quicker. The cocktails they gave me in the hospital, it was like insane. Like, I actually had my doctor now put on my medical file that I don't want narcotics ever again. Cause like I wasn't really given a choice. I mean, my hip was, my femur was in my bladder. It was very uncomfortable. Like I was in a lot of pain, But the way they gave me like gabapentin, they gave me like diazepam, like all these crazy like GABA altering medications. So like trying to wean myself off of them rapidly was insane. Like literally insane. I get I'm a redhead, but my temper was like, it was a lot. So, I mean, like, I feel like it's good. Like, I think it's important to find people like you that are like, yeah, I want to be a doctor. I want to help people. And you know what? Screw the system. I'm going to be a doctor anyway. And I'm going to help people anyway and just not do this other bullshit. I don't know if I'm understanding you correctly, but that's kind of the feel I get. Yeah.
And the advice I give to like younger people, right? Like people always ask me when they find out I'm a doctor, oh, I'm interested in pre-med, you know, I want to be a doctor. And I share this advice with them every time. If your goal is not to relieve the pain and suffering in others at their lowest point, don't do medicine. It doesn't matter about the degree. If you want to make money, you can make money in sales. It's a lot easier than spending all that money in medicine. Learn a high value skill. Okay. You don't even need to go to school if you don't need a degree like medicine or law, right? So only become a doctor if you truly care about supporting someone else at their worst point. If you don't care about other people, you shouldn't be touching other people and be a doctor. If you only care about, I'm not speaking about you, by the way, but like, I'm just saying.
Well, I don't like touching other people, but I do care about them. But if they were like almost dying, I'd be like, is there anybody else? Like, can somebody else like touch this? Like, I'm like, I'll go second.
I even share with people, like, if it's about getting initials behind your name, it doesn't matter. The most successful, richest people in the world just go by their first and last name because everyone knows that. They don't care about their initials. And of course, I'm talking about the mega billionaires of the world, right? And people, even if they have a degree, you can still be a complete moron, which is what I saw in like healthcare. Like, I'm like, how has this person become a doctor? How did this person become a healthcare practitioner? They don't care about the person in front of them. Like, they don't even seem like a decent human being, and they lack EQ. Like, a lot of healthcare practitioners have a high IQ, which you need to study that material. But the biggest driver of success, which I learned through the Dale Carnegie Business Group, is EQ, emotional intelligence. If you don't have EQ, you have nothing. Like, you can be the hardest worker in the room, have a high IQ, but if you treat people like crap, no one's going to care about you at all. So I realized for me, my goal was always to help people. And then I had to ask myself, okay, what does that even mean? What does that mean to help people? I had to it's like peeling off layers of an onion. I had to ask myself a lot of introspective questions. That led me to realize, okay, if I want to help people, I could even help people working in a soup kitchen. I could help people by carrying trash outside that when people litter. That's also helping people. I had to really define what helping people meant to me. And then I realized what helping people means to me, being able to take people from point A to point B with their health goals, where they want to go, wherever they are in the world, wherever I am in the world, and whoever they are. Essentially eliminating all barriers and borders. And that's when online health coaching came to me. It wasn't even something I knew about a couple years ago. That came to me, started my business. As you start and go through life, the ball keeps moving. Everything adds up with interest. And then I found Unicity, which also gave me the opportunity to work from wherever I want in the world with a product that works exceptionally well. Then I started working with the Dale Carnegie Business Group. Yes, I do that out of Toronto, but it's a global, over 100 countries you can find that course in. So I can teach it anywhere in the world. I could be online or in person. So all that stuff I wanted, I essentially have because that was my vision. So to anybody watching this, whenever they do, if they're interested in going to medicine, just remember, why do you want to do it? What's your goal? If you are not connected to that goal, don't do it. It's a lot of money you're going to spend. It's a lot of time you're going to spend, a lot of sacrifice you have to make, and you are going to be around people who are not proper human beings. And that's what I witnessed on the back end of it. And that's why it's no surprise why patients are sicker than ever. If that's how doctors and healthcare practitioners treat each other, without using basic human values, moral integrity, compassion, empathy, how are patients going to get better? They can't. Right? So
especially when it's like money first, right? So
I realized all this and I'm like, whoever wants to stick with medicine, that's them. But I'm my own person. I'm my own man. And I only have one life to live. And I got to live it the best way I know how. And that's staying true to what I want. So that's why I left it back in 2023. I still can apply for residency if I want to in both countries. I just don't want to.
It doesn't go away, I don't think. Does it?
It doesn't go away. So it's like I can do it. I just don't want to because I'd rather grow my business. Right?
Well, if enough of us people keep talking shit about how the system is run, then you can be a doctor when we fix the system.
I still won't do it. I still wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I started this business, and for me, it's like I'm just going to keep growing it. Because this is what I'm going to do. I have 3 things which I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. My health coaching, working with Unicity, which is the supplements you're taking as well, working with the Dale Carnegie Business Group because I'm growing as an individual within that organization, and the sky's the limit in all 3. So it's like there's no cap for me, which is why I will never go back to medicine. I found my home. So
see,
I would
and
never
that's the thing where it's like when I look at it, if you take the whole government situation out of it, remove it all, go back 300 years, a doctor or a healer and in those times was not regulated by any industry. If somebody was not feeling well, they would just go to somebody that had the knowledge and then they would get better. So it's like, to me, and this is just opinion based. Again, I'm a dumb construction worker. I don't know anything, but it's like, to me, that is how people should look at their health. Like I have 3 kids. My oldest has had a traumatic brain injury. Very, very difficult to overcome. And she is still it happened 3 years ago. And she is still she was, and you know what? I believe the universe, I'm not a religious person, but spiritual, definitely. I believe there's something else that's in control because she wanted to be a vet. And again, practicing medicine, the same type of thing, just with the animals. It is very much financially based, for sure, 1,000%. And with her traumatic brain injury, she couldn't go into veterinary medicine. She ended up changing her career path and doing something completely different. And she's still healing with things, still has delayed function, some anxiety, some PTSD with the traumatic brain injury. She has a hematoma on her brain, so we still have to actually rely on modern medicine because I don't have a CT machine. So I can't just go hey, is the hematoma shrinking or whatever? So it's we have to deal with people like that on a daily basis. My son has asthma and eczema. And my youngest has epilepsy. She's been seizure free for 3 years. So for me, when I was asking questions for my kids, it was basically I was treated like I didn't want to actually help my kids. It's no, I just want to actually know what you're giving her. If we're going to give her phenobarbital and she's 3 months old, what does that do? What does that do to her brain? What is it? I just need to know basically I was just given the answer if you're not going to give it to her, we'll just get CFS involved. That was literally what I was told by a neurologist. Yeah. And I'm okay, I just want to know what it is. It's not I'm not saying I don't want to give it to her. I just want to know what it is. So it's to me, if you want to help people, you could be you can help people and still be practicing medicine, have knowledge and understanding and just I don't know, just be a real person. Just the EQ, the EQ that you're talking about. I've never heard of that term before, but I'm going to use that. And then don't judge me when I drink Diet Coke. And then we'll just. I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone because I'm drinking Diet Coke and I'm also having this Unimate right at the same time. So it's
Unimate is awesome.
So it's fine. I like the taste of it. I did switch to the berry, so we'll just deal with this orange thick one. Yeah, but we'll see what happens when the berry one comes.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, the berry balance is definitely I really like it. The lemon Unimate, oh my god, I love lemon Unimate. So good. It just tastes like iced tea, especially when it's really cold. It's really good.
Yeah, so I have it both ways. So this is hot and this is cold. And just so everybody knows, I'm not getting paid to do this. I literally buy this shit. So I pay for this myself and I use it myself. So cold, hot, that's it.
Yeah, definitely.
Manu's not paying me to talk about it. He didn't even ask me to bring it. I brought this myself. I took it out of my cupboard.
Yeah, that's how good it is.
But
awesome.
I bought it because I was told if I didn't like go on Ozempic or like do something different, I would have type 2 diabetes. So like when you're talking about fatty liver and type 2 diabetes, I was like, whatever, this is $200 and Ozempic would be like $600. Neither are covered by insurance. One's a chemical, one's not a chemical. We're trying to make some changes in our household of like removing stuff that has dyes and shit in it. It's difficult. And that's like part of this whole reason of the podcast, and why it's called Control the Burn is because I feel like the food industry is just a force fire, and we just have to like control the force fire slightly, because you go to the grocery store and even when you buy fresh fruits and vegetables, who the heck knows how they were growing? We have no idea. We don't know what pesticides are on them or what you can wash off or can't wash off. Like we have absolutely no idea in this country or this continent, actually. So it's like,
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, people can say the States is worse, but a lot of times, like they have some stuff that's bad and we have some stuff that's bad. But like you pick up Kraft single slices and take a look at the ingredients in those. But right next to it is Velveeta single slices that have like 4 ingredients in them. So it's like, it's just a matter of paying attention or understanding what it is. Both are processed and both are really bad for you, but you can pick, I don't know. For me, if you're going to make a cheeseburger and you want to have like a true American cheeseburger, you got to have processed cheese just because. Yeah, but I don't like processed cheese. But if I'm going to make a recipe and put it in a cookbook, technically it should have processed cheese. But Derry and I aren't friends to begin with, so I just go with the no cheese on the cheeseburger. But yeah, like that's kind of my opinion with that type of stuff. I mean, how do you feel about food? I don't know. Do you have like a whole family to feed? Or are you by yourself, or like what's your
So I live with my parents, my family, so we all usually just eat together. But definitely, like I feel like the food quality, it's just so bad in living in Canada. And the US, I would say it's about the same thing. And what I mean by that is like when you go to countries where, and I talk to so many people about this, when you go to countries where it's naturally warm, so let's say something like Mexico, right? You can clearly taste the food difference. The same food in Mexico, like eating apples, eating eggs, it just tastes so much better than here. And when I went to Spain back 2 years ago in 2023, I spent a whole month there. And Spain, Italy, and France are 3 countries that I know on the top of my head that ban GMOs in their crops, their agriculture, all that. Same thing in Spain. You can taste the quality of the food. It actually tastes very good. And I don't feel like I'm going to get bloated after. I don't feel like I'm tired after. I don't feel like it's quote unquote fake. And so many people talk about this where it's really a shame that our food quality here has gone bad. And a lot of it, I think, is because of we have a lot of people that live in Canada and USA. We have a huge population. Because of the huge population, I feel like agriculture, food supplies, they need to be grown and produced much quicker, which obviously is going to take chemicals, it's going to take insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, antibiotics. So I guess that sort of makes sense in my head why the food quality is a little poor here. But definitely, for me, I try my best to eat whole nutrient-dense foods. Obviously, I eat junk food as well sometimes. I eat processed foods too. I eat dessert like cake, cookies, donuts, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I do my best to really follow like something called the 80-20 or the 90-10 rule. I talk about this in my content. It's like 80% or 90% of the time you're on point, you're healthy, you're doing all the right things for your life. And then 10 or 20% of the time you can just enjoy life and do whatever. But it really just goes to following that rule as the best we can. And then also using exercise as a tool to just off-put any increase in weight in our body, any signs of metabolic illness, to prevent blood pressure, to prevent high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes. So definitely I do my best to eat what I can in this country living in Canada. Although the food quality isn't the greatest, I still try my best to make the best decisions for myself, for my family. But to anyone who wants to still enjoy life, always follow the 80-20 or 90-10 rule, because that way you're still able to enjoy your life, but you're doing the best you can to promote a healthy lifestyle as well.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. Like, I'm lucky in a way that, like, I have a farm that we can, like, raise our own meat and, like, grow vegetables and stuff like that. But somebody in an urban environment, they just don't have that option. And when I go to a restaurant, I could tell the difference. I'm like, if I eat a steak that, like, from a steer that we raised, and, like, you know, we don't eat a lot of pork just because I'm not a big fan of pork in general. But I like it if it's cured. If it's like a salty salami, give it to me. But I don't know, a pork chop, I was just like, I don't know. To me, it's just not my favorite thing. But like for beef, for example, like I could tell right away the difference. To me, it just tastes like water if I get it somewhere, and like it's just completely, you can tell the difference. And same with chicken. Like we let our chickens like run free range, and then you go buy chicken from the grocery store because obviously you can't raise enough to like feed your own family and also try to like sell it to like maintain, you know, a business or actually afford to raise animals. Like, and there's a lot of regulations. Like, it's difficult. Like, so for a small farmer, in order to buy any type of medication that you would need in order to breed animals, you have to go through this vigorous process. You have to vaccinate your cattle. You have to use antibiotics. You have to do certain things. You have to like give a DNA path. And for me, with sheep and cattle, I don't want to use antibiotics at all. Like, why would I give them antibiotics if they're not sick? Like, I don't know. Like, you can tell right away when you butcher an animal if it's not good to eat or not. Like, we can hunt and we don't have to use antibiotics. We don't give deer antibiotics, but it's just like, it's weird that way. So it's like definitely kind of, you know, whatever you want to call it, the government stepping on the little farmer, and you basically forcing us to go buy it from like a mass produced place. I mean, you go beef, even though it's raised outside, it's still raised in a feedlot. It's all grain fed, all modified ingredients, everything. Like, you can't just go get beef. And even if you want to eat vegetables, they're all modified to grow quicker and everything like that. So it's like, what are we actually putting in our body? It's just one of those things where it's like bizarre to me. And then trying to pay attention to it, or, you know, you just want to make a meal. Like for us, I mean, I like to cook, so I'm pretty good. I understand the basis. I can start from scratch and finish it. But for somebody that didn't grow up cooking and has no idea how to cook something, they're going to go buy something from the store pre-made because one, it's easy, it's cheaper. Like most of the time it's cheaper. And like two, they don't have time. Everybody has to work these ridiculous jobs, these ridiculous commutes, and like have zero time to actually cook a full meal. If you're going to start from scratch, you're talking like 4 or 5 hours. Like it doesn't take, it's not quick. So, I mean, I think there's people out there that want to pay attention and want to help, but there's also people that look at the bottom line and the dollar and what they're making on things. So, I don't know. To me, it's about, like, obviously I like Diet Coke. That is one thing I probably will never give up. I did go 9 days without Diet Coke because they wouldn't give it to me in the hospital. But so I mean, I can go without it if I need to. But on the way home, I went and got the first fountain Diet Coke possible.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's important to pay attention to. And I think like with the way that you're explaining things, your parents immigrated here, or did you all immigrate here?
Yeah, so my mom is from India. She came in the 70s with her family, and my dad is from Malaysia. He came in the early 80s with his family. I was born and raised in Toronto, so I've lived here since 1993. I was born in 1993.
So you get parents that actually can cook. So so not everybody gets that. And for me, when you go to the store and you want to buy spices, so I have a friend, one of my best friends, her husband is from Jordan. And I went to an import store with her, and I was like, wait a minute. Like, these spices are way better. Like, why are these not in the grocery store? Like, you can go just get actual spices that are not, like, filled with dirt and dust and, like, everything. So now it's the only place I get my spices from. I will not buy anything from any other store. Like, actual, like, whole coriander, things like that I can grind myself. Not even, you can't go get that from the grocery. I mean, you could try, but it's like, how was it growing? What was preserved in it? So if we can import things from other countries, then we're kind of lucky in that respect. So for them, like she taught me a little bit more about the food, and like over the pandemic, her and I became really close because our kids both started kindergarten during the pandemic. And I mean, we didn't face the same issues that other people faced during the pandemic. We live rurally. We live in the country. There's not a lot of population. Our kids go to a small school and they take the bus. So for me, our kids are they're allowed to sit together next door to each other on the bus, but you're not allowed to come through the field and play together. Like, come on, we're not like, so we became close over the pandemic, and like, she taught me a lot of different stuff about how to cook things and like the way they cook things there. And it's just a matter of sourcing your ingredients differently, but it's hard to find, like, especially if you don't live in a metropolitan. Like, I'm a good hour from any major city where I am. I'm in the forest. So it's not easy to find stuff. You got to either order it online or go in once a month and just stock up and kind of grow your own stuff. But for people that live in the city that just want to DoorDash stuff, I mean, that's also fun, but to kind of order things. But yeah, so like what does a typical meal look like if you're cooking things and like stuff like that? Like what do you guys typically eat?
Yeah, for me, I eat eggs every single day. So that's something I eat for one meal at least every day, scrambled eggs, like 3 to 4 eggs. I also love making steel cutouts. So that's usually one meal for me, steel cutouts and eggs. My steel cutouts, I use protein powder, some berries like blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, different type of nuts. So walnuts, pecans, almonds, and just stir it up. It tastes super good, super healthy. You have your protein, fats, and also fiber and just good carbs. And then for dinner, I'll usually, stick to some type of protein, like either chicken or steak with rice, or maybe I'll have that with like pasta and also like salad, like veggies. I'm usually not very strict with eating that every day. Although the oatmeal and eggs, it's super easy to make, so I do eat that mostly every day. And then my dinner usually varies. It could be either some type of protein, some type of carb, and then good fibers like vegetables, like broccoli, cauliflower, or either just salads. So that's normally what I eat every day. And then I always consume water every single day, 3 to 4 liters of water. I'm always doing that. And of course, I'm on the Feel Great system myself. I use Unimate Balance. That's really substituted a lot of my coffee I drink, and also other supplements I was taking, like other greens powders. Now I don't have to take that because I'm taking the Feel Great system, which essentially is what all of those supplements were. But out of all the supplements I've been taking in my life, and I've been on supplementation for like over 10 years of my life, using things like omega-3 fatty acid pills, zinc, magnesium, turmeric, all these different things, vitamin D. I personally feel, and it's not because I work with the company, it's a great product, but like I feel like this one has actually given me some type of tangible health benefit. Like I feel energized, I feel I'm able to fast for longer. I've removed all my brain fog, and I run 2 businesses and work 1 full-time job. I'm busier than most people, right? So for me, I'm always able to stay focused. So that's where it's really helped me. That's why I love that system. But I also tell people, like, really focus on certain rules to help you lose weight. So I typically don't eat when I wake up. I usually fast for most of the day. I do at least like 18 to 20 hour fast every single day. And my body's used to it. So whoever's listening to this, just because I do it doesn't mean you have to do that. I always tell everyone that. I'm very used to fasting because I've been fasting for over 7 years of my life, like every day, where I actually made it a discipline. So definitely, guys, focus on eating your last meal at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. That's a great way to fast for longer, but also burn your food, like digest it, so that you're not just going to add on extra fat to your body where that food won't be able to digest itself properly once you're laying down and in bed. So just simple factors like that.
When you say fasting, and you're like, do you include water in that fast, or do you still drink water when you get up?
Yeah, I drink water too. So that doesn't break your fast.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've had arguments before where it's like, oh, if you're drinking water, you're not fasting. And I'm just like, okay. And I just stopped talking because I'm like, you know what? It's fine. Do your research. Because I find intermittent fasting is like the hugest part of my, like, I just lost like almost 90 pounds. So it's like intermittent fasting and a calorie deficit was like the biggest part. Like, and I've been on everything. Like, I've been trying to, like, I've been over 250 pounds for like well over a decade. So I've tried it all. Yeah. I've bought every product, everything. I have literally done everything. And supplements, again, like what you were saying, completely agree with you there. I've tried it all. Like, I've literally spent so much ridiculous money on everything. And then when I was just like, you know what, screw everybody else, I'm going to see what works for my body. And like intermittent fasting it was difficult to get into the routine at first because I was always taught like, oh, you got to start your day with breakfast. You got to have a huge breakfast when you get up. And like, to me, I always felt nauseous afterwards. And then I didn't feel good for the rest of the day. So now I don't eat till like 1 or 2, but I get up early. Like, I'm a 5 o'clock in the morning person. Like, that's what time we get up. Awesome. And that's what time we start our day. So not on the weekend. Like, again, 80-20 is probably more my style than the 90-10 because I don't get enough sleep and I drink a lot of Diet Coke. So like, I work like a ridiculous amount of hours as well. And I don't know. I just kind of have that like ability. I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to like get my name out there. I thought I wrote one book, and then when I started putting it together, it had like 200, nice. 267 pages before I was like finished taking the rest of my notes out. And I was like, so then I just put all the notes into a Word document, and it was 3,000 pages. And I was like, I got a lot of recipes. I need to break this up. So now it'll be 5 books, and I just released the first one, which is like a textbook because to me, people don't know how to cook, right? So it's like, and navigating the Canadian measurement system, it's a little bit interesting because we have like a mixture of imperial and metric and baking and things like that. If you go to Winners and you buy measuring cups that are not the same as if you actually check to see if they're made in Canada, they're American cups instead of Canadian cups, and they're not. It's like a few different things. So I mean, I always say bake by weight if you're going to do something, but I don't like baking. It's too much math.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important to pay attention to, like when you say fasting. So sorry, go ahead. I interrupted. I just wanted to find out your opinion on fasting. But yeah, so
no, I think fasting is good. I typically recommend people to follow the 16-8 rule when it comes to fasting. So if you're going to do an intermittent fast, try fasting for at least 16 hours. Then you have an 8-hour window to eat whatever you want. Of course, when I say whatever you want, that just means still do your best to eat healthy food. But usually if you're able to follow the 16-8 rule, you'll be pretty well off to burn fat during that 16 hours. And then when you are eating during that 8-hour window, most of the time from what I've seen working with my clients is that people just go pick healthy options because now that they know they have a window to eat, they're going to make the most out of it to still get the right metabolic outcomes they want with their health. So that's my advice for fasting. Follow the 16-8 rule. But if 16 hours is too hard, then just try fasting for 12 hours. That way you have a 12-hour window to eat. And then gradually you're going to work your way up to add more hours to your fast and less to your eating window.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, for me, what I try to do is obviously I'm injured right now. So like my 5 kilometers is not 5 kilometers anymore. It's like 8 steps. But so like we usually try to get up and before we do anything else, just immediately go outside. Because like we live where the hours are, well, you also live in the Northern Hemisphere. So our sunlight is very limited and we have to make sure we're getting the best of that sunlight. And so like in the morning, it's dark out. It's going to be dark out till 8 o'clock. So we don't have a choice. Like if you're going to start your day regardless. So my husband and I, we're the nerds. We have those headlamps and we like walk the dogs. We have 4 dogs and we walk the perimeter of our property and then start our day. So it's like, and then at the end of the day after supper, we do the same thing. So it's like, I think it's important to like get outside. Excuse me. That yerba mate also makes you burp a little bit. So, but yeah, like I think it's important to get like your protein is huge to me. Like I feel like it's important to make sure you're getting a lot of protein. I supplement my protein because they're just, I don't know. You just get sick eating protein, I think, at some point. Yeah. I don't know. And this isn't a plug either. This is just the product I use. I like Revolution Nutrition because I just find they have dairy-free options. And like for me, dairy and I are not the best of friends. So, and I can take Lactaid and I can handle it, but I prefer not to like take medication if I don't need to. So I just sort of avoid dairy where needed. And for them, like I can do, you know, like their ingredient list is good. They have like a juice option. They have like blueberry, raspberry that you can just mix with water, or they have just like vanilla. I mean, you can actually go crazy and just get like, I don't know, their pumpkin spice one too, but it's just like, they just have a lot of good options on their website, and I just find they have good deals. But again, not a plug. I don't do those, but it's just like, that's what I tend to use. So I try to get like 250 milligrams of protein a day. And I don't really know where I came up with that number. I just find like I'm trying to build muscle while lose weight at the same time. So for me, recovery is hard unless I have like enough protein, because I want to like push that lactic acid out. So I really like to do like a lot of weight training and things like that. So it's like, I know that when I do these lovely Bulgarian lunches that my nephew taught me how to do, that I am not going to be able to walk for a while. So getting as much protein, I think those things are just things that people don't realize. They don't realize what they're putting in their body means so much, or like recovery means so much, or like sleep means so much. I don't want to talk about sleep. I'm a hypocrite, but so I don't get enough sleep, but it's still important. I make sure my kids get enough sleep. So, I mean, I think it's important. So like, what are your thoughts on like I know you're talking about supplements and stuff like that, but like to me, supplements is anything you're supplementing outside of food.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And supplements, like even like the Feel Great system, like it doesn't substitute food. Like I still expect people and advise people to still eat healthy food and eat real food. Supplements are just supplements. They're just meant to supplement your lifestyle, your diet, your nutrition, your exercise. And it's just like, for example, like whey protein. I use protein powder after my workouts. I mix it with water or milk after my workouts, and I have a protein shake. But that doesn't substitute my actual meal, right? Like my actual lunch.
Exactly. Yeah.
So supplements are just supplements. I believe people living in North America should definitely be on supplements. It's just because of a lot of our foods isn't nutrient dense as it used to be, let's say 100 years ago. Or countries that grow their own food organically, like Mexico, because they have the climate to do it year round, or like Spain, Italy, France. I've never been to Italy or France, but I can speak on Spain. They ban GMOs and their food tastes a lot different, the quality of it. So I would always recommend people to, eat whole nutrient dense foods, supplement if you need to. But if you live in a country like France, Italy, Spain, I'd be surprised if people need supplementation there because their food quality is probably so amazing. So it really just goes to knowing your own body and supplement based on what you might be deficient in.
Yeah, I think it's huge, and I wish that in Canada we could go and just get like a full blood panel and like see what you're deficient in. But we don't have those options to just go pay privately and just be like, hey, tell me where I'm lacking in like hormones or blood work and things like that. So we have to travel to the States, pay for all of that stuff, and then come back. And if you have the ability to do that, I say go and do it, because like I feel like if you can know like, what your body is lacking or like what you're missing, then I mean we can guess all we want, but based on like research and things like that. But I just feel like information could be so much better if we knew what we were lacking. Like for me, obviously living in the Northern Hemisphere, we know we lack vitamin D. Like that's just obvious thing. Everybody that lives in the Northern Hemisphere, I feel like should be taking vitamin D. Like especially in the winter months, and people that work like a 9 to 5 that you're stuck inside all day long and you barely get to go outside. If you have a 30-minute break, go outside. Like literally, I don't care if it's an elevator, go outside for your lunch break. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're ordering DoorDash, take it outside. So it's like, we don't get outside enough. And we live in an area where the indoor recess keeps getting like, the regulations keep getting changed. Okay. So for me, I grew up in Canada. I'm used to winter, and I get like right now it's minus 35 outside. It's cold outside. I get it. That validates an indoor recess. That's fair to me. Yeah. Minus 12 does not. It's Canada. Like maybe in Toronto you don't get minus 12, but in Manitoba, Central Canada, Alberta, we get cold. So it's like for them to regulate an indoor recess for kids in grade 6 and under at -12. Like, to me, if you like when we were kids, if you didn't bring your hats and mitts, you had to go look in the lost and found. Like, go get your shit, and then you go outside. You don't get indoor recess. And like, so kids aren't getting outside enough. They're under fluorescent light all the time. It's just, so I have this stipulation with the school. Like, if you're going to do an indoor, I have the ability. So it's like, if you're going to do an indoor recess, let me know. I'm going to come pick up my kids because like, I'm going to take them outside. So it's like, for me, the teachers, and I don't always see eye to eye, but it's just like, I still think everybody should go to public school. You should still, have that. You should still have that as a part of your life. We have a lot of different belief systems in our household, but I am very much like pro-choice. You take all of the information and you make the best informed decision that you can. And I feel like, and I want to learn. Like, I want to be open to learning. I want to know everything about every aspect of something and then kind of just dive into it. And I think that's like part of what made me so curious about talking to you, because I was like listening to a lot of your stuff and I was like, hey, this guy's kind of interesting. So, and like you talk about, I think you go live like almost every day, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go live every day. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so like I catch it all the time, and as much as, yeah. And I try to get on there as much as possible and I try to catch it, but it always sort of shows up, on TikTok or whatever. And I've been in bed a lot more this last month than I ever have been. I was on bed rest with my last pregnancy, so I kind of compare it to that. And, but at least then I could walk. Like, I could go from like one part of the house to the other. I could go outside. But to me, it's 8 steps to my front door. So with the dislocated hip, and it was an anterior dislocation. So, it's a little bit difficult to do stairs, right? So, getting outside is a lot more difficult for me right now, but it's like, so I've been consuming a lot more of your content lately. So, it's good. And I feel like you just have a lot of interesting things to talk about. I think it's important to talk about those things and like, ask questions. Like, I see people ask you questions all the time. They see that you're a doctor and they want to like give you all of their personal information. And I see that a lot sometimes, which is the metabolic health thing is something I wanted to dive into a little bit more. Just talking about what that means. I know what it means, but I feel like a lot of people don't hear that term very often and they don't really know exactly what it means. And type 2 diabetes is so huge right now. And I don't think people know a lot about it. It also, like, if you're reducing your risk of type 2 diabetes, it's also reducing your risk for Alzheimer's. And I think that's an important topic. And I don't think a lot of people know enough about it. So like, I don't know. I feel like I'd like to know your take on that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of research, probably done within the past maybe 5 to 10 years. It's really hard to put a label on this because, research has been done for so long, but then it gets popularized. And that's when it becomes prominent. So I've really just started seeing this maybe since COVID, but maybe I would say since 2010 onward, there's been a lot of research to show that type 2 diabetes, which we've pretty much known even in my medical school journey, it's caused by something called insulin resistance, which is a root cause of a lot of issues. So your body's pancreas, so our pancreas secretes insulin, which is a hormone which brings down blood glucose. But if you're in a state of insulin resistance because you're constantly spiking up your blood glucose and insulin, and that can be if we're always constantly eating food, our body's insulin may be unable to regulate blood glucose as effectively as it could by bringing glucose back into cells. So what happens is over time, we're in a state of hyperinsulinemia, which actually just means you have a lot of insulin in your body, which contributes to symptoms. It could be type 2 diabetes. It could be high blood pressure, high cholesterol, maybe fatty liver. It could be PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And there's even a link of insulin resistance causing type 3 diabetes, which is called Alzheimer's disease. So even if we have type 2 diabetes, we can still fix this in a way if we focus on lifestyle factors, so diet, exercise, nutrition, mindfulness, so we can regulate our insulin better, so we're not putting ourselves in a position to develop Alzheimer's. So if someone has Alzheimer's already, right, and they've already lost memory, They can still potentially fix their Alzheimer's disease, right? That's by, let's say, regulating your insulin level, getting it to a state of insulin sensitivity. Whether or not they can return their lost memory, that's a different story, and that might not be possible. So the best practice always is education. Let's focus on preventing the thing in the first place. Let's focus on becoming healthy so we don't have to worry about being unhealthy or getting disease. So my thing is, for everyone, I fundamentally believe everybody on this planet knows what they need to do to be healthy. We've all been hearing it from our grandparents, our parents. Eat real food, go for walks, get sunlight, drink water, sleep, and pray. We all have been hearing that. Everyone. So I believe everyone knows what they need to do to get healthy. However, more people, especially in North America, I won't speak about other countries, maybe they're different, but especially in North America, people are becoming unhealthier than ever. And a lot of that may be because they don't have that education in place. Even though I believe everyone knows what they need to do, I feel like it is common sense. Maybe common sense isn't so common. I believe a lot of it might be with the food quality, when people consume foods that they think are healthy but are actually not healthy. And then I also believe another thing is that everything's just too convenient living in North America. Like, we would have to go to a grocery store, get our steps in. If we have a car, go drive to the grocery store, walk around the grocery store, bring our food back home. But now when we have things like Amazon, Instacart, we never have to leave the luxury of our home.
Immediately when I'm at my friend's house that's in town, I'm like on door. I love it. I'm like, if I could not live in the city, I would just like, there's no way. Cause I hate like interacting in the grocery store. It drives me freaking bonkers. I don't know. I just like, don't like, I just want to like get my stuff and get out. So I understand. Like, I love DoorDash, and I'm glad that I live in an area that I can't get DoorDash every day. So, cause I would use it all the time. And exactly, convenience for sure. I think that contributes a lot to it. Huge amount.
Convenience factor. And I'll be honest, right? Like, I live in Canada, right? I mean, I know you do too. And I'll say this fundamentally to everybody living in Canada and USA. You need a car to survive in these countries. It is challenging to carry groceries, to go walk around everywhere where things are not in walking vicinity to each other. Like, for example, like I was in Mexico for a month, pretty much a month. I toured Mexico 3 years ago, and I did the same in Spain 2 years ago. Those cities, like in Mexico and Spain, I went to Playa del Carmen in Mexico, Tulum in Mexico. I was in Barcelona, Madrid, Malaga in Spain. Everything is super walkable. Everything is super walkable, where it doesn't really make sense to have a car in those areas. But in living in Canada,
I couldn't imagine not having a vehicle, even in the city. Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. So it's like, the thing is, we rely on a vehicle for a lot of the things we need to do in this country, and it's hard. Like, I grew up in a household where we would have to walk to the grocery store in like negative 30 degrees Celsius, carrying groceries back and forth, and it was challenging. It was tough. I know there's so many families that are still going through that. And then everyone I talk to says the same thing. Living in this country, you need a car for survival. And if you don't have a car, you're relying on the transit system, which is meh at most. And then in Toronto, it's like Gotham City in our transit system, right? It's literally dangerous taking the subways, the buses, all this, because mental health is at an all-time low in North America. People are really feeling it. Yeah. And when people are feeling the deficits of mental health, they take it out on other people, unfortunately. So I think there's a lot of issues that are going on in North America. A lot of it is systemic. But at the end of the day, if people really want to become the healthiest versions of themselves, it's not going to happen in a hospital or clinic. That's where you go for sickness, guys. The reason they call it medicine is because it's medicine. It's not health. And that's what was the biggest distinguishing factor for me. When I realized, as a doctor, I'm not practicing health. I'm practicing medicine. That's why they call it family medicine doctor, internal medicine doctor. Then I'm like, oh, this clicks now. Now I know I'm actually not practicing health. And that's why I market myself as a health coach, because I realized in this system, I created my own system where I can actually follow up with my clients, my customers every week, because a lot of people need that. And in a standard Western medical care model, you see patients maybe once or twice every year. So in that washout period, when you're not seeing your patient, what are they doing? Unless that patient is super disciplined, focused, committed, not to toot my own horn, but there's someone like me that they're actually doing the thing they said they need to do, it's very difficult to see a patient that's actually going to get healthier on their own, practicing the right lifestyle habits. But when you pay money for that,
out there.
then when you get someone to pay money and you're actually following up with that person every week, they're going to be more committed clients because now they're bleeding something out of their own pocket. Like, oh my God, I'm paying this coach my money. Now I want to get the health results, even though they could have done that thing on their own. Right. So that's been one of the biggest things I've seen where, people fundamentally need coaches, and a lot of people may not, and that's totally cool. But for the most part, a lot of people need someone to hold their hand and make sure they're guiding them through the right process of reclaiming their health.
Yeah, I think a lot of that makes sense. Like, I mean, talking about growing up without a vehicle, like my mom also had epilepsy. She never had a license until I was already graduated and moved out of the house. Then she was able to go seizure free and gain a license. And we've always lived remotely. Like, I grew up on a farm. Like, we've never lived in town. And my dad worked in the oil field. So he got home like every 4 months. So we would have to go and but we were blessed in the fact that we could grow a garden and like raise our own food and stuff like that. So for us growing up, we had different options. But living in a city, I was just in the lower mainland of Vancouver just for a visit, while I was injured. And you see stuff on TV and you hear about these dispensaries and things like that. But when you see it firsthand, it is a different world. And it was culture shock for me. I live in the forest. I don't see people that are on fentanyl or drugs or whatever they're on a regular basis. That's the first time in my life as a 40-year-old woman that I've ever seen that, growing up in the country. I mean, Manitoba is like very low population, right? So I lived in Manitoba since I was 17 years old. We have 1.4 million people in the entire province. So like when you compare that to like, I think Toronto has 2 million people in it, in just Toronto, roughly. Right. Yeah. So it's like when I was like in Abbotsford, Vancouver, Victoria, it was sad. Like, it was crazy to see. And it was like I just feel like there's nowhere. Like, it's not a choice. Like, I feel like I was injured. I was put on some crazy pain medication. I could have kept taking those and become, just in the same boat, because it's similar to what you're talking about. You're not treating their health. You're treating their illness. You're not giving them a way out. You're not telling them how to heal their pain or like nerve damage or car accident or whatever. Like the pain is, sometimes real, but it's interesting to pay attention to and, see that world that we're going to. Because like I remember going to Vancouver 5 years ago before the pandemic. It didn't look like that. So, yeah. I mean, I worked in Toronto lots. Like I work in construction. I worked for a big construction company pretty much my whole life. And like we did lots of I've traveled all over Canada, not Spain or I didn't get to go to school on a tropical island, that's for sure. But I've seen it all. And like pre-pandemic, the world didn't look like that. So I think it's huge. Like, so, I mean, I think it's metabolic health to me. Like, I didn't know that it included a bunch of different things like what you're talking about. Like, I knew about the type 2 diabetes and like the heart conditions. My dad has congestive heart failure. So it's like, it's a couple of those things that I kind of understood a little bit about, but what kind of made you pick to go down that type 2 diabetes route? Like what like, do you feel like, or metabolic, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. So this might be the last question I can answer because I got to go going soon.
Yeah, I have like the thing popping up. I'm like, we got to go right away, but I just really wanted to get this out. I was like meaning to ask this at the beginning, but we keep going down rabbit holes. But
personal story with it. I mean, a lot of my family, we're South Asian. A lot of South Asian people suffer with metabolic illnesses. A lot of that's because of the food we consume, but also a lot of it is just because maybe just lack of education with lifestyle factors, right? Like diet, exercise, nutrition, mindfulness, all that kind of stuff. So for me, a lot of my family is diabetic. They have high cholesterol or high blood pressure. They're on medications. I got to hear from them all the time how bad those medications make them feel. And then even though as a doctor, I tell them what they need to do, they don't do it, right? So I realized what's the easiest thing I can help these people with, right? So for me, why I really target type 2 diabetics is because it hits close to home for me, because a lot of my family deals with that kind of stuff. So like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes. But at the end of the day, I know all three of these issues are completely reversible. They're fixable. And that just comes down to discipline and focus. If someone can be focused and committed at actually honing in on exercise, the right food to consume, and perhaps supplementation, the feel great system, they're going to get healthier. They're going to get better. And I've seen this happen in so many people around me already that have been on the system, that we're on metformin, we're on insulin, we're on statin medications, we're on ACE inhibitors for their high blood pressure. A lot of women who had PCOS, who are on estrogen, who are on like hormonal contraceptives, insulin, metformin as well, because PCOS is managed the same way as type 2 diabetes. Saw people who are on thyroid medications for hypothyroidism getting off Synthroid within 6 months. So it's like when I see the power of those products, the Feel Great system, I'm like, wow, this is truly a miracle. This is godsend. And I've never seen anything work like that before. And never have I ever seen something in medicine work that effectively at actually helping people get healthier and feeling better. And I'm a testament to it as well, because I've been on those products for over 6 months. Although I don't have any issues with my health or any medication I'm on. I mean, I am a doctor. I know how to take care of myself. That's probably a big reason. Those products have been very beneficial for me. So the reason why I really go for type 2 diabetes and other metabolic health conditions is because it ties very close at home for me. Literally, a lot of my family members suffer with those issues. They're on medications to a lot of those things. And for me, I want to be able to help my family get off medications. That's my goal, because they're my loved ones at the end of the day. I don't have anyone else, right? So for
that's
me,
that's a good answer. I mean, it makes sense. It's just curious why you picked that part. I think that that's pretty much all the time both of us have for right now, because we did this remotely. Yeah, we'll have to, because we kind of have like similar things that we're looking at and like similar stuff to talk about. I'm going to hit the stop record button here, but just hang out for a second, because I got to make sure I get your audio, and then it'll let me know. So don't hang up on me yet. But so everybody, he's Dr. Manu Gill. You can find him anywhere on social media. I mean, he's pretty easy for me to find, but I'll link him in all of these things. I'm pretty sure we're all going to air. I'm just working on some copyright things, but everything will be up and running before March 15th, regardless.
So if people want to find me really quick, Instagram and TikTok, it's the same exact spelling, at Dr. Manu Gill, ManuGill. I also have a website you guys can check out. It's www.drmanugill.com. So
I've been saying your name wrong the whole time. So let me just correct myself. Manu, not Manu. Manu. So I'll fix that. Either one. Yeah. So I go by Nikki because my mom threw an H in my name. So it's like Nicole with an H. So I just go with Nikki so it gets spelled properly. But
all right. We'll definitely do this again. And thank you to everyone listening. I hope you guys found this valuable.
All right. Bye. Okay. I stopped the recording. But hang on.